I'm John Degnan, Chairman of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. I want to thank you all for joining us today for another key milestone in the Port Authority's ongoing efforts to return to its core transportation mission, an effort that was endorsed, supported, and urged upon us by Governor Christie. This time with a critical modernization project for Newark Liberty International Airport. It joins the Goethals Bridge, the Bayonne Bridge, the Gateway project, which we've taken a lead on thanks to the request of the two governors, the George Washington bus terminal that was just opened a couple of months ago, and the ongoing work at LaGuardia Airport. Newark Liberty is not only literally the major takeoff point for New Jersey, it's also one of the Garden State's biggest economic engines. The governor will talk about that in a minute. Today's announcement by Governor Christie will help boost that contribution to regional economic well-being and to New Jersey's as well by becoming a fast-tracked plan and a reality within 5 years. Such a quick turnaround is due to a special staff. It starts with the Executive Director, Pat Foy. It includes Aviation Director Huntley Lawrence, Newark Liberty General Manager Diane Papiani, and Project Manager Catherine Cronin, and of course the agency's Chief Engineer Jim Starace. But most of the thanks today, in my judgment, go to Governor Christie, whose vision and leadership spurred on this project that generations of future flyers will view as a return to the golden age of air travel. The governor's been a major supporter of essential projects in the Port Authority's $32 billion 10-year capital plan that was approved in February. Please welcome Governor Chris Christie, who will tell you about the future of Newark Liberty's Terminal A. Thank you, Governor.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I want to thank John for his leadership for the last 3 years at the Port Authority. It's been extraordinary to have someone who has served as a chief counsel to a governor and served as a state attorney general to now take the lead at the Port Authority as its chairman. And I appreciate John's hard work and his commitment to the state. I see that the executive director of the Port Authority, Pat Foy, is here. Pat, thank you for your hard work and your leadership. They put together, along with the two governors, a capital plan that was approved in February that I believe returns the Port Authority to its rightful mission. We are not a landlord. We're not property developers. The Port Authority's mission is supposed to be transportation infrastructure. And so you see the emphasis in the $32 billion capital plan that was approved by Governor Cuomo and I, and ultimately approved by the Board of Commissioners at the Port Authority, is one that emphasizes things like the Goethals Bridge, the Bayonne Bridge, here Terminal A at Newark Airport, LaGuardia Airport's renovation, new transportation systems from the path to Newark Airport, transportation systems by train to LaGuardia and to Kennedy. All of these things surround the Gateway Tunnel project. All of that, all of the $32 billion that you see are returning the Port Authority to its core mission. For better or for worse, the Port Authority got off on a scheme for a while as a property landlord in Lower Manhattan. And we still will be for some time. I hope that in the future we'll get out of that business so that all the money that we collect at the Port Authority can be pushed back into meeting our transportation mission. Because it's not just roads and bridges or buses and trains. It's our airport facilities like we're at today that are crucial to connect people both nationally and globally. We're here at Terminal A, as John mentioned, for a significant step forward in all that. We're breaking ground ceremonially and starting work for the construction of 3 roadway bridges, which will connect the central area roadway network to the new Terminal A, which we will be building right next to the existing Terminal A. It'll replace this 1970s era building with a new state-of-the-art facility. It's a project that comes at a time when a study by the Airports Council of North America notes that airports across the U.S. will need $100 billion for infrastructure improvements in the next 5 years. Newark Airport is an essential part of our national network. This redevelopment project alone is anticipated to create 10,000 jobs and nearly $1 billion in direct payroll wages, while generating $3.9 billion in regional economic activity. And that's especially critical to bolstering opportunities for people in our local communities here in New Jersey. We continue to see a surge in air travel demand. Providing state-of-the-art amenities and customer service is critical to ensuring that people have a survivable time at the airport. No one's ever going to say it will be an enjoyable time to come to the airport, but we want people to be able to do the best they can while they're here. This is a $2.4 billion redevelopment project. The new and improved Terminal A will have the capacity to accommodate over 13 million passengers each and every year. Currently, this Terminal A, which was opened in 1973, was designed to handle a maximum of 9 million passengers a year. Overall, these new upgrades will enable the airport here at Newark Liberty to meet increasing passenger levels, accommodate larger aircraft, and upgrade all supporting infrastructure, including 33 gates and a 3,000 space parking garage. We'll have about a 1 million square foot facility here with a pedestrian bridge providing direct access from the air train and a parking garage, a new aeronautical taxi lane network serving the new terminal, frontage road bridges, utilities, and site work that will serve the new terminal, and that parking garage that we talked about that will be very important for the folks who are traveling here and commuting to someplace else around our nation or around the world. We know that this is one of the busiest airports in the nation, and that it's an important part not only for our economy, but for the nation's economy. So I'm pleased we're kicking off the vital project that this will be for the future of our state. We're looking forward to a partial opening in 2020 and a full opening in 2022. Kathy Cronin and I got a chance to speak this morning. I want to thank her and her team here for helping to manage this project. Never an easy feat to keep this building running while you're building another one and then try to seamlessly bring that together. But that's the thing we expect from the professionals that we have at the Port Authority. One need only look at the Bayonne Bridge project to see that these are folks who can deal with very complex problems and deal with them in a way that will help to keep the commuters moving and provide them with a better facility at the end. So again, thank you to Chairman Degnan for his leadership. He is standing up for New Jersey every day at the Port Authority, and I appreciate his willingness to continue to lead that agency. And I look forward to coming here as a private citizen in 2022 and using these new facilities, knowing that we played a part in making sure that they happen. So thanks again to our folks at the Port Authority, and I'm happy to take a couple of questions from the press if you have them. Well, first off, it nearly increases our flow by 50%. So this facility, the new facility, will be able to accommodate 50% more passengers than the facility that exists that we're standing in right now. Secondly, folks expect different amenities when they come to the airport now than they did when this facility was built in 1973. And despite the renovations that have been done here, we're still not providing the type of amenities that people need when they spend some time waiting here, making their way through to travel internationally. We need to have better amenities in the airport. Third, it's going to help the traffic flow at the airport. The new designed roadways and bridges will help that, and it will increase with Path to Newark Airport coming and our air train already here. We're going to have roadway bridges to come to this terminal that are going to make that much easier to accommodate as well. So in essence, I think one, it increases by 50% the number of passengers we can accommodate in this terminal, and two, it's going to make their experience more pleasant and easier. Michael. Had a very good conversation just last week with Secretary Chow, the Secretary of Transportation, and I absolutely believe that we will be partnering with the federal government and the state of New York to build the Gateway Tunnel, and that there won't be any delays in terms of our current time frame. And so I have confidence in the fact that the Secretary and the President are going to make that happen. From a federal level, we've already committed the money from the New Jersey perspective, and New York has made their commitment to be able to be partners in this with us. So Whether we'll use the Port Authority as the sole vehicle for that, or whether there'll be other partners in the private sector too that the Gateway Development Corporation may consider, are things that the chairman of the Gateway Development Corporation, Rich Bagger, are considering along with other members. But I have absolute confidence after my conversation last week with Secretary Chow that we'll be moving forward. Claude. Bob Mueller still have my confidence. I have no reason not to have confidence in Bob Mueller. That was your question too? Okay, good. Anything else? Really important, as I've said right from the beginning. I didn't think a special prosecutor was necessary. I want to remind everybody that these special prosecutor things tend to go off into all different kinds of tangents. Remember that Bill Clinton hadn't met Monica Lewinsky until 19 months after the Whitewater special prosecutor was appointed. So when I say I'm concerned about special prosecutors, it's not a partisan thing. It's that we have a history of special prosecutors running amok. I hope that Bob Mueller doesn't do that. I have confidence in Bob. But the fact is that I think that Congress could have investigated this, and I think the Senate Intelligence Committee in particular has shown some real bipartisanship in the kind of witnesses they brought to the fore, including former Director Comey and now Attorney General Sessions today. But we have a special prosecutor. So I have no doubt in my mind that they'll do it. It's very important to do it because we don't want foreign powers interfering with our elections at any level. And so it's important to find out how they did it so that we can try to prevent it from ever happening again. The good news is that there's no evidence at this point of two things. No evidence that any voting was interfered with, and no evidence of any collusion by the Trump campaign at this point. But when the investigation's over, we'll know what we know, and we'll be able to take actions moving forward from there. But Peter, I think it's very important for us to do it as a country, and I think that the president agrees with that. I have no information on that at all, and I just don't buy it. Listen, one of the bad things that's going on in Washington right now is that most of our news comes from leaks. And as we found out from Director Comey last week, some of those leaks are wholly unreliable. Director Comey last week talked about two different stories in the New York Times that he said were completely false. Now, you got to believe one of two things: either that the reporters were making things up, or that they were relying upon sources because they were anonymous sources that were not reliable and either didn't have complete information or making things up themselves. And so, I take this firing of Mueller in the same vein. Nobody will put their name to it. Chris Ruddy is a journalist. He's not a source inside the government. I assume that's why he's there, Michael. I think if he didn't think he had to explain some things, he wouldn't go. So I think he's there because he feels like he wants an opportunity to explain some things to the Senate Intelligence Committee and to the country, and I'm confident that he'll do that today. Now I got some things to do this afternoon, so I won't have time to watch TV, I hate to tell you, but. Yeah, I think it is. I think it is. I do think that it's a bad thing. I do think that when a special prosecutor is appointed, for instance, I'll use the Clinton example. When a special prosecutor is appointed to investigate their investment in the Whitewater Development Corporation, and that eventually leads to suggestions of articles of impeachment based upon perjury on events that happened well after the special prosecutor was ever appointed, that just means you've set up another layer of prosecution that's, to me, unnecessary. The Monica Lewinsky events could have very well been investigated by Attorney General Reno and her staff at the Justice Department. You didn't need to have Ken Starr or a Whitewater special prosecutor. And I just think that special prosecutors tend over time to run amok and to wind up getting involved politically. We saw that with Ken Starr. We saw it with the Iran-Contra special prosecutor getting involved, was it 3 or 4 days before the presidential election in 1992 by announcing indictments that clearly, in my view, had an impact on the 1992 elections. I just think that special prosecutors are generally a bad idea, because I think you have a structure in place that allows you to do that without having to put one in. But again, that's a law school discussion now, because we have one. And I think Bob Mueller is a good man. All my interaction with him when I was U.S. Attorney and he was Director of the FBI leads me to believe that he's a fair and honest person. But he will be judged by the work he does. All of us are only judged by the last thing we did. Whatever reputation you've developed before, you're always being judged by the last thing you did. Fair or unfair, that's what is going to confront Director Mueller now in this new role, and he'll be judged on how he conducts himself and how the people he surrounds himself with conduct themselves in this investigation. But getting back to Peter's point, I think, what's really important here is we find out what role Russia played in trying to interfere with our presidential election. That's the really most important thing to discover. And I hope we don't get off on a lot of other tangents that, while they may be important, would not necessarily be appropriately part of the special prosecutor's mission, in my view. Well, I'll be down in Washington again on Friday to have a commission meeting. We'll be having an open public commission meeting at the White House on Friday. And we'll have an interim report probably within the next 3 weeks. So we'll have some more details to give you in the next 3 weeks. But the White House has been incredibly supportive of the work that we're doing. And we have been working predominantly with the nonprofit community and states to find out what they're doing in their individual areas that are successful, so we can hopefully forgot the right word, so that we can hopefully replicate it on the national level. Secondly, we're working with states to see what federal impediments are there for them being able to get the work done that they need to get done to help get people treatment and to work together to try to lower the level of opiate addiction in the country. White House has been very supportive. We'll have a meeting on Friday, and we should have an interim report, like I said, within 3 weeks. I think it's very small, Michael. I don't generally think that politicians want to shut down government in an election year. Been my experience. I think probably yours too. That doesn't usually happen. I know there's a lot of politics going on over in the legislature right now. And I hope that they put aside their own personal concerns. And, they only have to work basically 30 days a year, so I would hope that they would, focus in now. Today's, the 13th of June. So we got 17 days to go. I guarantee you, as you know, there'll be a ton of legislation dropped on my desk in addition to the budget in the next 17 days. And I hope that personal political concerns for post-November don't get in the way of them actually doing the job that they're elected to do. They should worry about doing the job they're elected to do first before they worry about what's going to happen if and when they're reelected. So hopefully that'll happen. So I don't have a big level of concern. Meeting with the Senate President later today, and I'm sure that'll be one of the topics we'll discuss. Do I have any interest in it? No. I won't be here. I'll be less involved than you will be, I suspect, once I go. So no, that's really not my business, and it won't have any effect on my ability to govern, I hope. But to the extent that politics spills over into my remaining term, I won't be too happy about that, and I'll do what I need to do to try to work around it if it comes up. I'm not giving you daily updates. Next. All right. Well, I thank you all for coming today. Appreciate it. I want to thank the folks at the Port Authority, Chairman Degman, Executive Director Foy, and their team who are doing this really important project for the future in Newark Airport. Our passengers will be the biggest beneficiaries of it, but our state and regional economy will benefit as well. So thank you all for coming today. I appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you later in the week.